Shark says this robot vacuum is perfect for pet hair. A lot of owners online say almost the exact same thing. Some claim it only needs emptying once a month and handles dog hair just fine. But when this exact vacuum went through controlled evaluation against embedded pet hair and carpet, it came back with a below average score. Both of those things are true at the same time. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which one applies to your house. Welcome back to Sweep Gear, where we dig past the marketing and the star ratings to find out what a vacuum actually does once it's living in your home. Today we're looking at the Shark AV2501S AI Ultra. And honestly, this is one of the more confusing products we've come across, because depending on where you shop and what review you land on, you'll hear two totally different stories about it. Here's why that matters. A robot vacuum isn't something you can test drive. You're trusting a box, some marketing copy, and a handful of strangers' opinions before you spend your money. And when a product has this much conflicting feedback floating around, that trust gets harder to build. So we dug into the spec sheet, the performance data, and real owner experiences to figure out where the truth actually sits. What we found is that almost everything about this vacuum comes down to one simple question. What kind of floors do you have? Once you know that, the contradictions mostly disappear. Let's walk through it properly. Start with the basics. This is a LiDAR-based robot vacuum, meaning it uses laser mapping instead of just bumping around randomly. Shark calls its navigation pattern matrix clean, and in practice, that means the robot moves in a grid row by row instead of bouncing off walls, hoping for the best. In everyday use, it handled a full staircase edge without any close calls, cleaning right up to the drop-off and turning around cleanly every time. It also worked its way around clothing, blankets, and toys left on the floor. At one point, it even got wrapped up in a phone charging cable and untangled itself without damaging the cord or needing a human to step in. That's the kind of thing that actually matters day to day. If you've ever owned a cheaper robot vacuum that needed rescuing every 20 minutes, you know how much that changes whether you actually use the thing. Here's a small detail almost nobody talks about. This vacuum handles rug tassels and fringe noticeably better than most robots in its price range. If you've got a decorative area rug you've been avoiding letting a robot near, that's one less thing to worry about. On general debris, dirt, crumbs, kitty litter, that kind of everyday mess, the airflow on this vacuum measured surprisingly strong, on par with some pricier robot vacuums, and it had no trouble pulling in heavier debris like cereal without getting stuck. Now let's get into the part everybody actually wants to know about. Pet hair. Shark's marketing leans hard into this. Like, perfect for pet hair is right there on the box, and plenty of real owners back that up. One owner described it as doing a great job on dog hair, saying they only need to empty the base about once a month. That's a real common sentiment. But when this vacuum went through controlled evaluation specifically for pet hair embedded into carpet fibers, it scored a 5 out of 10, solidly below average. The issue isn't the suction itself, it's that the brush tends to press hair deeper into low-pile carpet instead of lifting it out cleanly. So which one is true? Both. On hard floors, hardwood, tile, vinyl, pet hair pickup is genuinely strong, which lines up with a lot of the positive owner feedback out there. On carpet, especially with a heavy shedding dog or cat, you're going to need more frequent passes and possibly a backup vacuum for deep carpet cleaning during shedding season. If your home is mostly hard flooring, this is a real strength. If you've got wall-to-wall carpet and a husky, temper your expectations. Health is worth a moment here too, because it's a detail that often gets buried under suction specs. The self-empty base uses true HEPA filtration, capturing 99.97% of particles down to 0.3 microns. That's not just a marketing number, it's meaningful for anyone dealing with allergies or asthma at home, because it means the dust and dander aren't just getting stirred up and resettled somewhere else. Speaking of the base, this is honestly the headline feature. It holds up to 30 days of dirt and debris before you need to touch it. For a lot of busy households, that's the difference between actually using a robot vacuum regularly and letting it collect dust in a closet after week 2. Runtime is rated at up to 120 minutes. Verified performance data puts the real range anywhere between about 90 minutes on max suction and well over 2 hours on lighter cleaning modes, which works well for larger homes. If the battery runs low mid-clean, it heads back to the dock, recharges, and picks up exactly where it left off, so you're not left with half a living room done. Here's something that surprised us though, and it's not about cleaning, it's about getting back to work. A full recharge takes around 4.5 hours. That's noticeably longer than a lot of competitors. If you've got a big home, that needs 2 full cleaning cycles in a day, that recharge window can genuinely slow you down. Noise-wise, you're generally looking at around 60 decibels, roughly the volume of a normal conversation. Not silent, but not disruptive either. Most owners describe it as comfortably background level even during work-from-home hours. Maintenance is pretty manageable. The pre-motor filter needs a rinse about once a month, the HEPA filter only needs attention once a year, and the brush roll typically lasts 6 to 12 months before replacement, depending on how hard it's working. None of that is unusual for this category, but it's worth budgeting for as an ongoing cost, not a one-time purchase. If you're thinking about picking one of these up, I've left the current price and listing details in the description below so you can check today's deal for yourself. The app is where this vacuum shows its weakest side, and it deserves an honest look. The SharkClean app handles the basics fine. Scheduling, choosing a cleaning mode, setting no-go zones, checking cleaning history. But it runs slow, occasionally shows inaccurate status information, and you can't watch the robot's location in real time while it's cleaning. If you live in a multi-story home hoping for separate maps and schedules per floor, this app won't do that either. It only handles one floor at a time. Some owners have also reported the robot losing its Wi-Fi connection unexpectedly, which usually means a router side reset to get it reconnected. It's not a deal breaker for most people, but if you want deep granular app control, this is where you'll feel the limitation the most. Obstacle detection is also fairly basic. It relies on light-based sensing rather than true object recognition, so it can occasionally misjudge thick rugs or cords as bigger obstacles than they are. It's reliable, just not the smartest system on the market. Before you go check that price, there's one more thing worth knowing because it trips up a surprising number of shoppers. This exact robot, the AV2501S, comes with a standard base that holds 30 days of debris. But there's a nearly identical version sold under a very similar name that comes with an XL base holding 60 days instead. If your priority is emptying it as rarely as possible, double check the listing title before you buy because it's an easy detail to miss and it directly affects how much upkeep you're signing up for. So how does this stack up against the competition people usually cross-shop it with? Compared to Roborock's mid-range lineup, Roborock generally wins on app sophistication. Real-time mapping, more detailed room controls, a noticeably more responsive interface. If those app limitations we just covered sound like a deal breaker, that's the direction to look. You'll typically pay more for it though. Compared to Roomba, especially the higher tier models, Roomba tends to have an edge specifically on pet hair pickup, which lines up with what we found here. If pet hair on carpet is your #1 priority above everything else, a higher tier Roomba is worth comparing directly. Where the Shark model holds its own is price to feature value. It regularly sells for less than half its list price, and at that price point, getting reliable LiDAR navigation and a genuinely functional self-empty base is hard to match. With all that in mind, here's how to think about whether it's actually right for you. If your home is mostly hard flooring, hardwood, tile, laminate, this is a strong, budget-friendly pick. You get a low-maintenance way to stay on top of daily mess without emptying a bin every other day. The same goes for apartment dwellers and first-time robot vacuum buyers who mainly want something reliable and simple. If you've got wall-to-wall carpet and a heavy shedding pet, this isn't going to fully satisfy you. Same story if you live in a multi-story home and really want per-floor smart mapping, or if you're after a highly polished app experience with real-time tracking. That's not a flaw we're going to talk you out of. It's just not this vacuum's strength, and a step-up model would serve you better. Is it worth the price? At full retail, it's a fair but not exceptional deal. At the discounted price it's commonly sold at, it's genuinely good value for what you're getting. If you've made it this far, you now know more about this vacuum than most listings will tell you up front, including which version to actually buy. That's really the whole point of this channel, not talking you into a purchase, just making sure whatever you choose actually fits your home. If this helped you avoid buying the wrong version or figure out whether this is even the right vacuum for your floors, a like helps other people find this before they make that same mistake. And if you want more honest, no fluff breakdowns like this one, subscribing means you won't miss the next one. One last thing, I'd love to know what you're working with at home. Carpet or hard floors, cats, dogs, or both. Drop it in the comments and I'll help you figure out if this is the right pick for your place.